Welcome to Jon Ferrian Live. Also, tonight we have a special announcement. Actually, two of them. One of them I'm going to cover right here at the beginning of the show, and the other one we're going to cover at the end of the show. But I would tell you, one of the number one Live Large fans in America, North America even, right? Canada, US, all the folks who follow Live Large and all the things that are there, the person who has literally bought more Live Large merchandise, hats, shirts, hoodies, stickers than anybody else on this planet, including me. This guy has more than me. Kyle P. Franklin. You guys now have the opportunity to find Love Your Life merchandise on the Live Large item order website. So the same website you'll find in the link of the show notes tonight, the same website, livelargeitemorders.com. You can go in there and you can find Love Your Life merchandise. We've got t-shirts, we've got long sleeve shirts, we've got hats, and these are the two colors that we're going to have available. We've got the high visibility green and the beautiful purple color. Jessica Carter from Extreme Realities has been the one to design these logos as well as all the Live Large logos in the past. So Kyle P. Franklin, I am so excited to have you on board and to have you support the Live Large University Scholarship Program that's so near and dear to all of our hearts, right, buddy? So for everybody who's watching tonight, share this out. We got an awesome message coming here tonight from Suzanne L. Anderson is here tonight from the Cascade Ladies Ride. She's going to be here talking to us about some other exciting things here in just a few minutes. But right now is your chance to get in to share and win the show tonight. Get in to share and win. We're going to do a Woody's Racing. So I'll pop that up here quick here. Woody's Racing t-shirt is available in Idaho and potatoes just for sharing out tonight's show and helping us spread the love your life, and the Live Large lifestyle here on Facebook Live tonight. So again, Woody's Racing, snowcross racing team out of Minnesota, having an amazing season. And we had Taven Woody on here just a few weeks ago coming on and talking about what she had going on for the season and announcing that they had. So give Woody's Racing some love over on Facebook and Instagram. Follow them and share the show out tonight, and you can get in to win. So let me drop the Woody's Racing shirt logo and one more quick shot. Guys, Love Your Life shirts. I've got some of these on order. I'm going to be ordering some of these myself. I'll be rocking these and appreciate. But for those who don't know, Kyle Franklin actually this week is in the hospital right now. Talk about living the destiny of love your life. You never know if tomorrow's going to be here. This guy had kind of an emergency situation come up. He's in the hospital recovering. I just talked to him on the phone here tonight before the show, and he's in good spirits. He's super stoked to be able to have this merchandise come out and be available for all you guys. So give Kyle some support. Again, all the proceeds for these shirts, just like all the Live Large merchandise, is going to show up at the Live Large University Scholarship Program. So, all right, Suzanne, get ready. I'm coming for you here in 3, 2, and 1. Oop, wrong button. There we go. Now I got you. How the heck are you, Suzanne?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks, John.
Holy smokes, what an intro. What do you think? That Love Your Life merchandise is going to be sick, huh?
Yeah, I love it. I'm gonna have to get some of that ordered.
That's awesome. That's
So
awesome. So you got to actually. That's kind of how I got to meet you. Is you met Kyle? Here's the funny part, guys. Is Kyle P. Franklin, right? Goes by Kyle P. Franklin. Suzanne L. Anderson. And so tonight, just for this episode, you guys can see down here below me, right here. I've changed my name to add my middle name as my initial as well. So I decided to be Jon A. Ferrian for tonight. Does that work for you, Suzanne?
yeah, I like the way that you want to fit in. So
Well, I was feeling left out. Like I needed a middle initial thrown in the middle of my name tonight too, just to make sure that I was part of the cool kids tonight.
yeah, that's what the cool kids are doing.
Awesome,
So
awesome. So that's funny because with a last name like Anderson, I think you mentioned this to me too. It's just it kind of makes it nice to be able to know exactly which Suzanne Anderson we're talking about when we have Suzanne L. Anderson. So it's smart actually for you to be able to do that with a fairly common last name like that. So.
yes, that's exactly why. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So Kyle's here watching. He's having a good time. He's cheering us on. So big
Hi,
shout out to
Kyle.
Kyle. But yeah, you met Kyle and Nina at the Driven event, which is where you and I originally met. Why don't you just talk a brief minute just about the Driven event and how you ended up there at that Driven event and what you were doing there?
a brief minute. That's all I get.
Well,
There's
just
so
on that
I know,
event.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. We'll
There's
come
just
back. We'll
so
circle back.
much
So,
about that. But basically, the state of Oregon OSSA is really frontiering this project about having avalanche education more readily available for people in the state. And so it's still in its beta launch, if you will, trying to figure out all the logistics of it, but having some educators throughout the state. So OSSA sent two of us to Seeley, Montana for area training. And that's what you had alluded to, that we were at the Rich Ranch, and part of that week of phenomenal education, and it was a great opportunity. I learned so much there, and I'm really excited to be able to bring it back to people and share the knowledge. So, because that's one way. I mean, it makes such a huge impact if people can just, it's just basically sharing what you've learned. So
yeah. So you got to experience firsthand the passion that we exude here on the show around the avalanche education, right? And so what was your takeaway, maybe a couple of takeaways from the ARI level 1 training that you took in Seeley Lake? Like, had you taken other previous avalanche classes at all, even awareness classes, or was that your first opportunity to take class? Or tell me a little bit about that.
yeah, yes, I have had other training because it has been something that's very important to me. So, but in every educational opportunity, it's amazing how you think, oh, I've already been exposed to this, so
Yeah,
this will be like a refresher course, and brush up on my skills a little bit. But it's amazing how you learn something new every single time that you
absolutely.
open yourself up to the opportunity to learn. So again, it was a lot of for me, the one takeaway. They talk a lot about you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
and like I said, having gone to other educational events, I think that I know a little bit. But what Brian of Tyler's Backcountry Education taught me is that there were certain things that I was afraid of that I didn't need to be so afraid of.
Yeah.
That was a huge thing for me, and that just a lot of that just goes into practicing the maps and learning what is avalanche terrain and what isn't, and being able to play around with the settings in the map and stuff like that. So and then the opposite side of that, some of the
Yeah.
areas that you think, oh, I'm on the trail here, so I'm not in avalanche territory at all. And
Yeah.
so that was the thing from his class specifically that was really huge for me. So
That's awesome. Yeah, Brian's an amazing instructor, and after taking his class, I mean, I would tell you he's just top notch. And that's one of the cool things is tying all of the partnerships. Brian Lundstedt is one of 4 different providers at ARI that do support the Live Large University Scholarship Program as well. We partner with them, and Brian actually right now is the one who's got up 2 level 1 avalanche classes available for anybody who buys either Live Large swag, or now Kyle P. Franklin, his Love Your Life swag. Like, if you go in and order that, every item ordered gets you in to win one of 2 of the level 1 avalanche classes from Brian Lundstedt, and we'll give those away around like July 1st. So they'll go through the first half of this year. So it's just cool the way like this whole world is kind of feeding itself, right? Like it's one thing helps the other, and I think that's what this whole episode is about tonight, between what
yeah,
Kyle's got going on, what you got going on, what we're going to get into. But let's not short sell this whole thing here. Let's tell everybody a little bit more about who you are, what you're about, where you're from, all that kind of stuff too, and give a quick intro if you would.
sure. So I live in Southern Oregon. I live in Medford, and I've lived in Oregon most of my life, born and raised here. So didn't really get into snowmobiling until about I'd say 2003 is when I started riding. And it's kind of funny that I remember sharing with my family, oh, I'm gonna jump into this sport and try it, and they're like, you'll never last. You hate being cold. What are you thinking? This will
Yeah.
never stick. But here I am, however many years later that is, and uh, still absolutely love it. So then fast forward to about 11 years ago, I went to a ladies ride, and that really kind of, that was a pivotal moment for me. But a little bit more about me is outside of what I do for my hobby, I work in the salon industry. I'm a salon consultant for salon professionals, working helping them work on their business side of their business.
Very good.
And so when I'm not consulting, I'm doing something with snowmobiling. You
Yeah.
get, I'm sure, like you get the same question all the time from people who aren't in the sport of like, well, what do you do in the off season? It's
Yeah,
kind of almost
yeah.
like it seems like there really isn't an off season.
That,
You're always working
yeah.
on
Well, especially when you get involved in things like clubs and state associations and ladies' rides, like you have the season where you're riding and doing everything, and then you have the planning season, right? Is kind of really what it comes down to. So,
right, or you're working on upgrading your machine, or you're doing the wrap, or there's something. But yes, so I'm very involved with our local club, and then of course then that kind of ties into then being involved with OSSA, and we'd already kind of touched on what OSSA is
yeah.
trying to
Well,
put
that's
together right now. But
yeah. Well, let's dive deep into the comment that you made about 11 years ago. So, you know, how did you first get into snowmobiling, and was it right away when you did this ladies ride, or was there a previous time before that? Or let's start with like how you got into snowmobiling in the first place, and kind of who you were riding with friends and club members or whoever you were riding with. And then let's then fast forward to or come back to that first idea of going to a ladies ride and what inspired it, and go there. We'll kind of go down that path afterwards. So,
I got into snowmobiling, like I said, in about 2003.
okay.
I was in a relationship, dating somebody that was a huge snowmobiler, and
Yeah.
so that's how I was introduced to it. And then just I stayed with it,
Yeah.
and like I said, the first ladies ride I went to was an Elk Lake ladies ride, and I had heard about this. I'd heard about this amazing ride called the annual ladies ride that
Yeah.
took place in Halfway, Oregon every year. And I kind of wanted to go to that, but it was a little bit fearful. It sounded a little bit too intimidating for me. So when the satellite ride, if you will, popped up in Bend, Oregon, I thought, oh, I could probably go that far to a ride
Yeah.
and see how it goes. And so that was the first ride. And then I knew, like, okay, I'm definitely next year I'm going to go to
Yeah.
the mothership, the Mecca, the annual ladies ride in Halfway. But I was in a position at that time where I needed to make a decision whether or not I was going to stay snowmobiling. Could I do this on my own as a woman in the male-dominated sport? Could I load my sled, fuel my sled, all of the things
That's so
by
really,
myself?
I mean, that's something that you're saying, but I just want to take a moment to pause and like just have everybody who's watching tonight consider this for a minute, right? We're all in different positions in this world, whether, and I think you kind of made the point is like, can I fuel the sled? Can I, truck, load and unload, like all these different things of, maintaining the sled or, taking it to the dealership, all the back and forth. And I think most people who ride like take that kind of stuff for granted, right? Because they're with somebody, they have somebody, in their family that's mentoring or coaching them, and you got introduced to it, but then you kind of found yourself on your own and you love the sport so much, but we're concerned about whether kind of independently, can I do this, right? And that's the part that I think is so incredible about these ladies rides and what inspired you to go to the ladies ride and to give it a shot. So yeah, let's just keep going from there too. But I think that's a really key pivot point for the conversation of how critical these ladies rides are for the growth of the sport, and for inspiring ladies to do as you've done and kind of make it a lifelong passion and hobby, and maybe even a career for some of them, right?
Yeah, right. No, I appreciate. Thank you for saying that, because it really does. That's the tie. We'll tie that all together of how. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many amazing things that have happened because these events take
Yeah.
place. So yeah, I show up in the parking lot. I had to have somebody take me. And made that arrangement and pick me up after the ladies ride, and it was almost like dropping your kid off at school or something, and watching them ride off with all
That's
the other
awesome.
kids. Um, so, but yeah, I pull in and then all these women are um, gassing them up, unloading it, like all the things. And okay, I'm really watching and trying to take it all in. And
Yeah.
so, shout out to Susie Wurges. She's the one who organized that ride at the time for a handful of years, and really had already taken me under her wing via chatting back and forth on where do I need to go and who am I
Yeah.
going to ask for and stuff. So jump ahead to the next year. I go to halfway because by then I have the pickup I need, the ramp I need. Like I'm dialed in. So I'm able to go to the ladies ride and halfway, and wow, what an event that was. That's it. A shout out doesn't do the Brandy Floyd is the one who organized that ride. I think originally it started in McCall, and maybe it was there for 2 years, maybe just
Okay.
1 year. I'm not really sure on the whole exact history on that, but they moved it to halfway, and it just grew and grew and grew over the next 16 years or
Yeah.
something. I think we kind of just grew out of the town of halfway itself because one of the last rides, there was more than 50 women there. And
Okay.
I don't know if you've been to halfway, but
I have not.
it's it's just it's lovely there. The writing is amazing. And
So I'm gonna ask
so
a really dumb question. What is halfway between? Like it's obviously
yeah,
the name of
right.
it, right? It must be halfway between something or another, right? What is the foundation of that name? Do we know?
Yeah. I think it actually was named a .com. Like it might be the town that they changed their name to .com for a while or something. I don't know. That
Oh wow.
I'm totally digressing, but
Sorry about that. Didn't
um
mean to distract you. I always find it interesting when you hear a name of a town like halfway. It's like, okay, is it halfway between California and Washington? Is it halfway across, between two other
yeah,
towns or
it's
like
really close to the border. So I live on the west part of the state, and it's all the way on the eastern part of the
Oh wow.
state. And so when people ask me like, where are you going? Where's halfway? I say it's all the way because for me it's far to travel. But
It's halfway to
um,
nowhere and all the way across the state, right?
yeah, I think there's a slogan out there that says halfway to heaven.
Oh, there you
I
go.
if I remember right. So
Let's go with
that's
that.
catchy. Yeah, let's go with that.
All right, I digress.
Uh,
So back to the ride and the inspiration that Brandy Floyd and team had for you guys. So
Yeah, so over the years, these satellite rides were popping up, and so I'm sure that you've heard of them. There's a Baker ride and there's a Cook City ride, and it's just wonderful that I don't know if that was the vision that she had for it or but that's kind of how what it grew into.
yeah,
And so now the ride in halfway is there. It's a halfway ride is what it's called. Linda Batterton, and it's more of a couples kind of weekend than it is
nice.
just a ladies ride. But so that's been where I my ride came into place. We Susie Wurges that I mentioned
Hmm.
decided like I've done this for a couple of years. It's time for it to evolve as well. Everything in the industry grows and changes and evolves, and we're trying to keep up with that.
Yeah,
And so we decided to change the name to the Cascade Ladies Ride instead of at the time that was always held at the same place. And we thought, well, what a great idea to start having it in different places so that if you come to this ride year after year, then you're able to ride in a different place
yeah,
the next year. And then also, we're all about supporting other places. So instead of like, oh, we're just only supporting this one lodge or this one location every year, most of these places are locally owned and family operated, and
yeah,
so it's great to be able to say, okay, now we're supporting this one. So each year
yeah.
we try to take a poll and figure out where the next best fit is. So,
So Suzanne, what I mean, you've said you started the ride, but I'm going to pause for a second and ask you a kind of a deeper question: is what do you like? What do you? Why did you start your own ride? Like that's a big difference to go from like to attend a ride and even multiple rides. Like I attend a lot of rides and I also lead a lot of rides, and I know there's a very big difference between those things, especially when you start talking about the kind of event and the significance of this and coordinating sponsors and stuff, which we'll talk to about in a little bit here later. But like, what was that trigger in your mind that made you think like, I want to I want to run my own ride. I want to like, set one up in my area, and I want to do, what was the goals, the mission? What was it that inspired you personally to take that leap of faith and to start your own ride?
Yeah, you're really good, John. Getting to the heart of it. So I'll make sure that I don't get emotional talking about, but really what sums it up is about paying it forward.
Yeah.
These rides, like I said, I was at a pivotal time in my life when
Yeah.
I said, okay, I'm gonna step out of my comfort zone here and try this. And the amount of support that I received from these women who most of them have become my dearest friends.
Amazing.
And so there's that, right? There's the friendships that have been developed that, have developed my life, right? I mean, it's like anything. We have those pivotal times in our life where we're like, I'm at this fork and I can either go left or I can go right. And depending on which way you go, just changes a lot of things about what your purpose is.
Yeah, that's
So,
amazing.
so really it comes down to paying it forward and being able to then be that person that helps somebody who is struggling with some writing tech. I mean, I'm by no means a writing instructor. But there are practices and things that we do at Ladies Rides that just so many fun little tricks that you end up seeing and sharing that just help your confidence. Because we all know in snowmobiling, that's what they say when you're in a clinic. It's like you've got to have your self-confidence about it,
Yeah.
So I just my heart, I just was really led to paying it forward and making sure that if there was somebody out there that is in that position and feels like they want to come to this event, and we have a great time. I mean, that's the other thing about it is like, it's hella fun. So guys do it all the time outside of snowmobiling. Women do it outside of snowmobiling of like a ladies trip to whatever or a guy's trip to whatever. And so why shouldn't we be having that in the sport that we love? So
that's awesome.
So really hopefully that makes sense and of my why I do it. I can remember an exact moment where I was probably not on the same hill, I'm sure, but same situation and same kind of slope. Somebody goes up it and doesn't make it quite up. So now you're stuck like this, and we get the snowmobile, pack it down, get it on a ledge, and then they can jump on, turn it around, and go down.
Yeah.
And I can remember, my first ladies ride, my riding grew so much. I mean, they did push me. And I was on a hillside, and I wasn't comfortable getting it and riding it back down in that situation. And I couldn't tell you now who the exact person was that said, do you want to ride it down, or do you want me to? It's up to you. It's your sled, your choice. And I was like, I let them write it down for me.
Yeah.
And then fast forward however many years later, like the exact same situation, and I was the person who was standing there saying, "Okay, it's ready to go. All you got to get on and turn out, and it'll ride back down. And are you comfortable with it, or do you want me to write it out for you?" So
that's powerful right there. Like same spot on the same hill, and the evolution that you went through, and your inspiration to pay it forward and support the other ladies. And so, let's say I'm Jon Ferrian, I'm a lady getting ready to go on my first ladies ride, and I'm a little nervous. Like, I'm not sure what I'm nervous about. Like, maybe I'm nervous of failing, maybe I'm nervous I'm not good enough. maybe I'm nervous about being in a new group of people I don't know. Like, what can you tell me, Suzanne, that's going to make me, Jon Ferrian, feel comfortable coming to your ladies' ride, and why should I do it, right?
Right. So that is such a common feeling,
Oh yeah.
and the common response that we get. And I think it's just kind of a misnomer a lot of times, because we do require that you have the appropriate gear, that you come with a avalanche beacon, a shovel, probe, and radio. So a
Yeah.
lot of times people think, oh my gosh, these women must be riding in really crazy terrain. I barely leave the trail. I'm not comfortable with that. So that's part of it. And so really, if somebody comes to me and asks me that, I really just kind of share my own story
Hmm.
about that's it. That I feel you. I know exactly what you're feeling, because that's where I was at. And just the just trying to encourage you to step out of your comfort zone a little
Yeah.
bit, the value that you could receive for just, again, the confidence of it.
Yeah.
And just little things, just knowledge, like the simplest. Okay, I'm going to share this little story with you, and
Sure. I'd love it.
it is one of these things that I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have my facts right. I'm pretty sure. So here's an example. So I'll give a shout out to Jody Phillips out of Rexburg, Idaho.
Okay.
She comes to the ladies' ride one year with these pink straps for us, because as women, we need to figure out how to get ourselves unstuck, how to get a sled out of a tree well, and we're not just gonna all muscle around, but we are really good at teamwork. And so she comes with these pink straps, and it was amazing for a ski pole, or putting them, you can put them through the running boards or a spindle or the bumper or
Yeah.
whatever. And so she was handing them out. And so that really became like a big ladies ride thing, is every year, whoever the new people that were there was like, you're getting a pink strap. And so things like that was like spread out, because all of those people that learned how great that was, that technique,
Yeah.
go back to their writing partners, their writing groups, and they share it. So this is the part where I think I know what happened here. So they had popped up a couple of different places, people starting to kind of market it. But so about six, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years ago, at the annual Ladies Ride and Halfway, we had Brett Rasmussen come and do a clinic for us.
Wow.
So
That's pretty impressive. That's awesome.
yeah, it was great. And so it was he and Josh Roth, and did a couple of we had two different groups, morning group and an afternoon group, and so they tried to work with as many of us as they could. It was really great. But I'm pretty sure that's where Brett learned about the pink strap.
Nice.
And and now I see that he being in Seeley, and I've watched his videos, his training videos that he does, and he
Yeah. Yeah.
demonstrates. They're not pink, they're black,
Okay.
but but the nylon strap that I'm sure you learned about in the clinic. So when I see that, I'm like, I'm pretty sure he got that from the ladies' ride.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So
So, the ladies' rides each year, people want to come. It takes a lot to put them on, though, right? It's like, and I know you've moved them around, so each lodge, I'm sure you're working with the lodges there too. But, what other kind of support do you get? My understanding is you guys have like different companies that you guys partner with that, sponsor items that you guys use for fundraisers. Is that correct? Why don't you elaborate on that a little bit of kind of some of the structure of the ladies' rides and what people would expect while they're there?
yes, so it is working with the lodge, or the restaurant that's in the area, or where we're going to have the raffle and different things like that. But I reach out to industry leaders for support of a raffle that we do, to raise money for avalanche safety training and awareness. So each year, time spent. I mean, it actually is kind of great now, because I've developed relationships with certain people at with certain companies, and so it's like, oh, it's our yearly catch up phone call on
Yeah.
how things are going. So, and of course, everything now this year it was very interesting. So many different changes. So for how it's affected the industry, I mean, in a good way, I think most people would
Oh,
say that
100%.
more people are recreating probably than ever now.
Yeah.
So, but from a manufacturer standpoint or whatever, that their inventory and stuff, they're really struggling with. It's either getting the inventory or everybody's recreating so much that they've been sold out. But that aside, I still I can't say enough about some of the support that I get from some of our industry leaders. It's really been phenomenal. You kind of touched on it in the beginning about this circle of like,
Oh, yeah.
we all have the same desire and passion,
Yeah.
and so it just pulling together for the greater good of the snowmobiling community, and just it can be in different ways, whether it's an online auction or it's a ladies ride where you're buying raffle tickets, and the kind of the fun of that, it's like the lottery, and so we make it as fun as we can, and the ladies win some really great stuff, and and then the next piece of that is so then what do I do? How do I make sure that the funds raised
Yeah.
are used to the most powerful way that they can be? Where do I put those funds, and how do I do that?
And I think that
So
that might bring us to a phone call that you and I had a few weeks ago, right?
exactly.
So it was awesome. I'll just kind of share my side of the story here and I don't remember exactly if it was a text or a Facebook Messenger or whatever it was, but you had reached out to me a few weeks ago, and you were right away like, "Hey, this is Suzanne L. Anderson. I met you in Seeley Lake," and I'm like, "I knew exactly who you were. I remember we had our encounter there, and you're very memorable. So we were
Oh,
there at the thing. Well, it was the
I hope
Oregon.
that's in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. It was I remember the Oregon State conversation and the fact that you guys were there and what you were going to go back and do with it. So it was a very memorable conversation, and I felt like because of the fact of, oh my gosh, here we have a state association and folks like yourself who get it, like what the importance is of avalanche education and safety. And I don't even know if at that time when I met you in Seeley Lake, I can't remember if I was introduced to the idea that you were involved with all the ladies' rides or not. We may have talked about it, but that didn't stand out in my head at the moment. But when you reached out to me, you said like, "Hey, John, I want to talk to you about something. I want to pick your brain about something, right?" And then I'll turn it back over to you and have you share what kind of you started, I think, kind of interrogating me or quizzing me or something, right? I don't know what it was, but it was an awesome conversation. And
Okay.
why don't you go ahead? Because I think you were asking me a lot of like, well, hey, tell me a little bit about this and a lot about that and what's going on, and you were doing some investigating. It was my kind of interpretation of it there too. But why don't you tell your side of the story before I mess it all up? So.
Well, that's really, I was really reaching out to you for advice
Yeah.
on where I can put these dollars that they are going to be the most useful. And it's because I did try to do my own scholarship
Hmm.
thing uh, for a couple of years, and I was hoping for a better response than what I got, and it could just be because how I was able to put it out there. Like I didn't
Yeah.
have a big enough reach. My net
Yeah.
wasn't big enough. People didn't realize that it was even available. And so starting to look like, okay, how then can I make it more available to the people or the person
Yeah.
that can use this education and then share it with others. So just starting to look at those options, and then when I started digging into that, and I learned more and more from having watched your show,
Yeah.
just that there was that scholarship program that you have.
Yep.
So it was kind of more of a question of like, what's your advice here as far as would it be smarter for me to start that, or should we just join forces and have this money
Yeah.
be basically donated to the Live Large Scholarship Fund? So once you shared with me more about how that process works,
Yeah.
that really solidified the decision for me. It just, first and foremost, making sure that those funds go to motorized education.
Yeah.
Motorized education is still fairly new, would you say?
Oh yeah, it's
That
very
would be the right term
underdeveloped.
for it?
Yeah. I mean, in
Yeah.
avalanche education world, I would say, just my quick, shoot from the hip number is, we're maybe somewhere between 20 and 35% of what the overall industry is, right? Like it's a very small percentage compared to, what we're out there doing. I mean, the ski, snowboarders, climbers, all those folks have been doing avalanche education to the tune of like level ones for, frankly, 20 plus years, 40 years, some of them. And we're still relatively new to the table. And when you look at like area providers, right, the avalanche area providers like Brian Lundstedt, like Matt Enns, like Brett Rasmussen, like the Mountain Riding Lab, those four key providers there's four of them that are dedicated motorized providers. There's about 108, 109 non-motorized providers. Some do both a little bit, but majority of them are all exclusively non-motorized. But the exclusive motorized ones is a very, very small percentage of the overall number, and hence the reason for what we're doing. And just to kind of amplify what you're saying there is, some of the things, and I think it's important that the public knows. It's something that I've always, intended to be very transparent about how this all works. But there's different things, right? So we've got, we do the T-shirt sales and the hats, the stuff we announced tonight with Love Your Life. That's going to be there. Even Cal Taylor from the Utah Cymbal Association has a "Don't Follow Cal" shirt on my website that is still on there. That same thing. That money goes to the same program. And then we partnered with Avalanche Alliance, and it was, Climb, it was Marlon, it was Polaris. I mean, the list goes on and on. It was Fly Racing Snow, who Ron Bensinger from Fly is here tonight. All of these amazing companies came together and supported the Avalanche Alliance. We did that sled sweepstakes, and we raised like $167,000 for this program. And so, like, what I was trying to do in the beginning was like raise a few $1,000 and give away a few scholarships. And now we're at the point where like we have probably as many scholarships as we can give away over the next 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, even depending on how many applications come in, and the volume of people we can get through these trainings that are there. And so this synergy that's happening and the partnership, this is the part that I just am like still awestruck with. The fact that like what this little idea became and the people who have jumped on board to support it, and it's contagious. The fact that like, Kyle Franklin wants to support it. Now Suzanne L. Anderson wants to support it. And there's more, there's going to be more. I know there's going to be more, right? And for all of us to come together and to help amplify each other's missions when we're so well aligned, right? Like I want to come on here and I want to talk about the Cascade Ladies Ride, and I want to talk about the amazing work that you're doing. I want to be part of that, right? And at the same time, you want to make sure there's an impact to the sport that we all love. We want to grow the sport in a positive way. We want to do it in a safe way. And, motorized avalanche education, men and women will apply. But frankly, we got enough there for everybody. So like if somebody from your ladies ride wanted to go into this avalanche education scholarship and they meet some basic criteria, like here's the criteria we're trying to get people going with this program, and why you were inspired to do it is it's all designed to be seed money to grow and develop the industry and the sport around avalanche education, right? So, if Mary Smith came to me and says, I want to sign up for an avalanche class, I'd be like, okay, tell me about yourself and tell me why you want to do it. And if Mary Smith says like, well, I just want to take an avalanche class so I can go ride with my friends. Like, okay, great, Mary, but what are you going to do to inspire other women or other people to go get their education? And are you involved in any, clubs or state associations or what it is? Those are the kind of questions that are in the application process is, what is that person, man or woman or otherwise, doing to invest in our sport to continue to grow this, right? Like, Suzanne, like the kind of things you're doing is spot on with what we're trying to accomplish. Like you're inspiring other people, specifically women in these ladies rides, to come to the table and to get involved and invested in the sport and to get a safe education about how to do it the right way. you're exactly the type of person that that kind of seed money would go, to funding and supporting type of thing, right? Linda L. Batterton, you said earlier too, she had applied for a scholarship. She was a beneficiary, benefitter. She benefited from the scholarship this
Right.
year. She just went through her class here not too long ago. Same thing, she's doing the same type of things. People who are going into professional level avalanche education, and one of our instructors, you remember from the Seeley trip, it was Brian's second guy. I'm
Mike.
drawing a blank. Mike. Yep. So Mike was there. Mike just went through his Pro 2 course to go there. Mike is continuing his education to support motorized education. He got a scholarship. The list goes on and on. I think we somewhere between 20 and 30 people this year that we supported, and we have the ability to support that many people for several years out with the money that's there. And so for you to see that and that vision and to like decide like, man, that's where we want to put our money and support what Live Large University scholarships and ARI stand for and what we're trying to accomplish. And at the same time, I can turn around and say like, I love what you're doing. Let me get on the show and talk about what your ladies ride is and get people encouraged to come and attend. Like that's how we all win together. And that's what I love, love, love about what we're doing in the sport and all the people that are involved. So, whew, I'm going to take a breath now. The show's back to you. Man, I get on a soapbox sometimes. Sorry about that.
No apology necessary. It's I talked about my why as far as like the ladies ride, why I decided to host the Cascade Ladies Ride. My why for the avalanche part of it, it's always been something that from the start of my riding, we were traveling. My sister lived in Wyoming, and the much higher avalanche danger there, and so when we would go visit there, and it was very important. She made it very clear how important it was, and but when you get that phone call that somebody was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and and that's when it really is like, how do I be part of the solution and not part of the problem?
Yeah.
What can I do to make a difference?
Yeah.
And it may be, my part may be little and small, but when everybody can come together,
Amen.
it becomes such a big thing. So I'm going to take a deep breath.
No, that's okay. I mean, while you catch your breath, I'll just mention this is like you mentioned earlier that you had met Brett Rasmussen and Josh Roth that come to your thing. Those who may or may not know, Josh Roth passed away in an avalanche himself, right? Even somebody who's very well educated and understand, sometimes they'll find themselves in bad spots, bad places. And when I was just over in Alpine, Wyoming, riding here a couple of weeks ago, I found myself on top of a hill overlooking the city of Alpine, and literally no more than 6 or 7 feet away from me, there was a little kind of a marker there, like a memorial for Josh. And as I was sitting there talking, like I think his middle name, I think was Christopher, if I remember right, or something like that. I don't remember.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, but I was talking to Clyde and Craig who were with me that day, and they said that that's a memorial for Josh, and the valley that he had been trapped in the avalanche was literally just like over the next knoll from where we were at. And that was a moving moment for me too. And so for you to bring up his name, in the show tonight as somebody who you had interacted with and the impacts that we have and, how we all work together to just, I mean, Rob Kincaid this last year passed away, another famous writer who generally knew what he was doing, but sometimes just simple things that we learn in these avalanche classes that build these good habits, it can make all the difference in the world. So
right. And one thing about the ladies ride that I know a lot of people don't think about as women riders, just being blunt, but I hear this a lot. Well, I don't really need to, I sit on I sit on the trail. I don't really need to have a beacon or have the education or whatever. There's kind of a long list of excuses sometimes. And sorry to use that word, but
frankly, that's what it is. I'll call it the same thing. It's like, and sometimes it's ignorance. Sometimes it's people intentionally just like, nope, I don't want anything to do with it. And yeah, I mean, back to you, but it's like, sometimes we got to choose who we're riding with. But if we can inspire people, right, that's what it's all about.
Right. So sometimes, I just ask the really hard question or obvious question, like, oh, okay, so does your husband Hi, Mark. Is he? Oh, yeah. So, he has one. He's the one who's up on the hill and, all that stuff. I'm like, so then you're going to be the one that has to find him. Am I hearing that right? And that aha moment sometimes where they're like, oh my gosh, I never
Never
thought of
thought of
it
it.
that
Yeah.
way. I'm like, in some regards, you need the training more than anybody.
Yeah.
You need to know how to use your beacon and how to use your probe
Yeah.
properly and all of those things. So, um, yeah, um, that's my why of why that part is so important to me.
Yeah.
Luke Rohde was, a dear friend. That one was, yeah. So especially after that happened, then I knew, like, okay, I have to do whatever I can do to be part of the solution. So I really want the graph, of the numbers of the years that you see and the increase. It's like, what were they calling that, the bend the curve thing
Yeah.
through this pandemic? Like, I just really want to bend the curve of,
Yeah.
so, and unfortunately it's definitely not this year. I was just reading an article earlier today about how we,
Well, it's a double
not
edged
a
sword.
record that we're proud
Yeah.
of, but we broke a
Yeah.
record this year, like, not just snowmobilers, but as
Yeah.
far as avalanche deaths
Yeah.
across the board. This has been the worst year, and oh
Well,
gosh,
yeah.
we just have to do better. We just,
No, I know, right? But consider
so.
this though, and this is something I think it's good for, you specifically, and then everybody who's listening to hear this out loud is, you know, the people who've been riding for a long time, I honestly believe we're making a dent, right? Like the people who've been out there
I
riding,
do too.
riding, riding, I think we're making a pretty
Yeah.
significant dent. It's becoming normalized to get the avalanche education. The pro riders in the industry that are out there, that we all role model and look up to, are talking about avalanche safety and education, and they've lost their own version of their friends and,
Mhm.
in avalanches and deaths. And so it's been something that has hit the core of the industry in a very positive way, and I think we're making a big dent there. The part that I don't know that we all completely consider fully is that we're also doing our best to grow this sport, right? And so that brings in many, many new people. And I think of this year and the riding I've done and all the places I've gone where the snow parks were just packed, and you'd hear about the snowmobile dealers coming in and people coming in buying their very first snowmobiles, and used snowmobile market is sold out, nobody can get a hold of anything. Like, this was a year where, frankly, the fact that we have a pretty significant amount of deaths again this year sadly isn't super surprising to me, especially knowing the snowpack and the dangers that were out there. Is there was so many more people on the snow that frankly were uneducated people that were bringing in the sport for the first time. And that's where these things like state associations and clubs and these ladies rides and all these things that pull people into some kind of a community that allows them to experience from mentors like yourself, hopefully like me and others that are out there that can coach and teach and train and mentor. Like, we just had a beginner ride yesterday, right, at the local snowmobile club ride. You probably saw the pictures that I posted,
Mhm.
and it was like, oh my gosh, what an amazing day. It was 10 people. There was one lady who was with us. It was a friend of another gentleman who was part of our club, but it was her second time ever on a snowmobile, right?
Mhm.
So everything was for her. She was hearing it the first time. Avalanche safety. So she got the full rundown, right? It's the morning
I bet
checklist.
she
Like,
did.
her head was spinning by the morning, right? And then there was another, a couple of folks that were on the ride too that had never ridden with our group, but had followed me on social media and wanted to attend the ride. And it was a gentleman and his stepson that had joined us. And there was just a lot of things that we had to talk about throughout the day. Basic things like wearing tethers and buckling your chin strap, and lending out some of the avalanche safety gear that they didn't quite have yet because they weren't ready. But the cool part is, the avalanche forecast yesterday was low, right? It was green. Wet slides because of the warm temperature was the only thing that we had to watch out for, but they were all small. And we had an amazing day. It was a great learning day. But we set the example for everybody, the new people in the sport, the people who've been there for a while, and the existing people who knew what they were doing. They were part of that, right? They were helping people getting unstuck, and they were helping making sure everybody was encouraged and feeling good. Like, and we got so many positive comments and compliments and high fives throughout the day. Everybody had a blast, but it was a very heavy training day. That's what the focus
Mhm.
was. But we made it fun because we're growing
Make
the
it fun.
sport in a positive way. But bringing those new people in, it's going to get amplified up there. And unless those people get connected with folks like yourself or me or other, clubs and state associations, it's going to continue to be a challenge to get the word out to everybody. It's going to hopefully, we'll continue to grow the sport, but at the same time, we got to continue to educate everybody as they come in. So,
Yeah, I'm a big believer in behavior is contagious.
yeah.
So if you, just what you're saying, if you're new, you're coming into it and you're looking around and seeing like what everybody else is doing, if it just becomes more the norm
Yep.
of like just this is what we do. I'm trying to remember who it was that you were interviewing, but they made a really great point about how helicopter pilots or take any pilot really.
Yeah.
They have a checklist that they
Yep.
go through like every single time. I mean, they could
I think that was
recite it
David
back
McClure.
and
Yeah, I think it was, if I remember right, it was David McClure talking about like the safety and like going through the checklist and stuff too. Like as we talked about Rob Kincaid passing away, the idea that all of these are action sports. It's a safety thing, right? To go through it also.
yeah, and just making sure that the gear is like part. I would never think of riding without my helmet.
Yeah.
So, um, so it's the same for me. I don't ride without my helmet, and I don't ride without my avalanche gear either. So,
Yep.
yeah, and furthermore, the avalanches aside, like survival gear. How many times have we heard that story where we're like, well, we were just going out for a short ride. We were going to be
Yep.
back before dinner, so we didn't bring our backpack, and then something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So
Always.
I mean, it's the same thing. Either you set out, you thought you weren't going to be in avalanche territory, but for whatever reason there was a
Yeah.
tree across the trail, or I don't know. But your course, your travel plans change, and then the
Yep.
next thing you know, so just those kinds of things of like
Yeah.
just being we're all creatures of habit. So if you
Yeah.
make certain things habit, and then if you are able to teach by example, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for you and I, and being in the position that we're in, you have to, and also like you have to practice what you preach too.
Absolutely.
So sometimes when people will call and ask about the ladies' ride,
People
and
are people are watching the whole time. You
yeah,
got to set the example, right? So,
yeah, and they'll say like, oh, can you make an exception? I don't have a beacon. I don't. I'm sorry. I really can't. I mean,
yeah.
it would be like me saying, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, I
so
know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's like you just can't in your own conscience. Like as much as you want them to ride, you want
I
them to
want you
be
to
safe.
come. Yeah, I
Yeah.
want you to come to the
Yeah.
ride,
Yeah.
but yes, these are the requirements, and
Yeah.
there are no bending those rules. So
Yeah, no, it's amazing. So we've covered a lot of information tonight, and there's like a big takeaway I want to make sure everybody heard. I know you said it, but I'm going to amplify it right now. Is that the money that you've been able to raise through your Cascade Ladies Ride, you've donated to Erie under the Live Large University Scholarship Program, right? So that's amazing. I just want to say personally, from the bottom of my heart, like it literally made me cry when I heard that you were doing that. I told my wife, I'm like, can you believe she's doing that? That's just amazing, right? So to you and all the ladies who've helped raise the money and all the sponsors, right? And that's what I want to
yes,
have you talk about in a minute here.
I
You got a list, hopefully, right? So you got a
I
list in
do
front of
have
you.
a list because
All
it's
right, we're
hard to
gonna.
see them on the banner,
Yep,
but
that's okay. But yeah, so all the sponsors and all the ladies who have attended these rides and the people who've supported you, thank you from the bottom of my heart for that donation. It means the world to me, and it's it's a fair amount of money, But I would tell you that it could be $1, and I would feel the same way. Like the fact that people believe enough in what we're doing to support. Like you guys did your own thing, right? And to support the program that we're doing through ARI for the global good is just amazing that we're getting that kind of alignment from everybody. So, kudos to you guys, appreciate
yeah.
it. And I want to make sure we recognize all the people who've supported you and helped you guys have the success you've had. So please go through the list of the folks who've been helping you out. So,
Okay. So most of these on the list are also repeat supporters. I mean, I'm not going to go through the list for each year. So
yeah.
this was the industry leaders that supported us for the Cascade Ladies Ride 2021. Okay.
Yep.
From the top, Tecker Snowcat, BCA, Extreme Realities, Focus Graphics, Too Cool Air Vents, Off-Road Vixens, Caliber Products, Diva Snow Gear, Snacker Packers, Mammut, SLP, TKI, Tech Vest, HMK, Fly Racing, Snow West, and Lake of the Woods Resort.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I've got a comment here I'm going to read out loud. It says in the comments, it says, please acknowledge what an amazing service these ladies' rides have provided to the sport of snowmobiling. So I can't quite see because it doesn't always pop up who the name is there, but when the show's done, we'll be able to see who it is. So whoever said that, appreciate your comment. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. And go from there. So, Suzanne, let's wrap this up. But any final thoughts, any final words that, anything you can think of that we haven't covered yet that you add, or any final thoughts?
I do have a final thought. You touched on it a little bit, but I do want to make sure that I make it clear that anybody can apply for the scholarship
Oh yeah,
that you
that's
have.
good.
So like funds raised from this area, if there is somebody who attended the ladies ride and was
Yep.
like, I really want the scholarship. I've become passionate about avalanche training for whatever their own why is. Please don't hesitate to
Oh yeah.
apply for the scholarship money.
Yep.
It's there. I mean, you also touched on this too. I shared with them like we use the word excuses, right? For people to say that avalanche training is too expensive, or if it is something that you
Yeah.
really want, you can get there.
Yeah.
Like the money is there. You just need to really take the steps
Yeah. I mean,
to apply. So
here's what I would tell you is like there were out of all the people that applied for the scholarship, there was two people, and I won't use names, but I'll tell you there's
yeah,
two people who applied that we didn't give it to. And here's the two examples I'll give you why we didn't give it to somebody. One was somebody who they frankly did not articulate how it is that they were involved and invested in the sport of snowmobiling, through somehow supporting the community, right? And they didn't say how they were planning on paying it forward and kind of investing in others around them and inspiring others to get there too. So even though we asked for that, there was very clearly there was nothing there. So we're just like, well, sorry, we're not here just to fund people's avalanche education, without anything else attached to it. And the other one, this is hopefully a little peace of mind too, is we actually had somebody who appeared to be somebody in the professional avalanche education world, but didn't articulate in their application that they were tied in any way, shape, or form to this motorized community, right? And so it
mm-hmm.
appeared that they were applying for the scholarship, but there was not a clarity that they were involved in snowmobiling or snowbiking or anything else motorized. It looked more like a ski snowboard person. And frankly, if you go to the area website, there's a bunch of different scholarships available
Right,
for
for sure.
everybody that that are non-motorized or motorized or whoever. There's other ways to get it, but this specifically is all about motorized, and anybody who applies is valid. And I would tell you, if you're professionally into it and training, I've also seen where people who have brought a group of friends, like, hey, they all signed up for the class, they inspired to get there too, and they're just showcasing that they're encouraging the people around them to go get the training and to be invested in our sport. That's all we're asked, right? Is like,
Mm-hmm.
just like you've done, right? You attended a ladies' ride, you've paid it forward. Look what you've done, the impact, that investment of the time and effort that they invested in you. Look what
Mm-hmm.
it's done for our community. It's just amazing, right?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, any other final
So one,
words? So go ahead,
yes,
yeah.
one other thing is that I mentioned about Cascade Ladies Ride
Yeah.
has a different location every year, and so I'm looking for where our next location is going to be. Or I also touched on like things evolve and we grow, and I'm totally open to suggestions on how we can make that event better. Or
Awesome.
where should we have it? Should we have Ari? I talked to Vicky at Ari, and she thought it would be a great idea for us to have an Ari 1 training or a rescue class attached to the Cascade Ladies Ride. So is there interest there, or do you have a suggestion? Like, please reach out. You can leave in the comments. You can email at cascadeladiesride@gmail.com, or on the Facebook page, Cascade Ladies Ride. So I'd love to hear any feedback or suggestions that people might have. So
That's awesome.
let's just keep making it better and better and better, and more benefit, and that whole circle of good.
This
So
yeah, the synergy we have going is amazing. So
yeah.
awesome, awesome. Well, I appreciate you very, very much coming on the show and sharing everything there is to know about the Cascade Ladies Ride. People can go to the Facebook page, which is literally called the Cascade Ladies Ride, right?
Correct.
Once
Yes.
the show's done here and I can go in and edit, I'll be tagging them in, tagging you guys in the show along with your name as well too. But again, if anybody hasn't already done this, now's your time. Share this, and if you haven't already, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love knowing if someone's watching from Maine. I know I saw one name in here that somebody's from Massachusetts. They're watching. It's late at night over there.
Cool.
They're here.
Yeah.
Brian Thiebold is one of our power fans. He's here every week, but he usually watches Monday mornings. So tonight he tuned in live. There's people from California and all over the country. So let us know where you're watching from before you hang up tonight. Appreciate you guys being here, and as always, happy Easter.
Yes.
Which
Happy Easter,
which makes my
everybody.
last phrase. I don't know if anybody pays attention, but I say this at the end of every single show. God bless all of you, and live large. Have a great night. Bye, everybody.